picture of the Pope kissing the Koran. The Catholic Catechism in our library out here, you can read it for yourself. Some of the things they believe are pretty interesting. They say, in the Catholic Catechism, 841, the Church's relationship with the Muslims is, the plan of salvation also includes those who acknowledge the Creator, the first place among whom are the Muslims. These profess to hold the faith of Abraham, and together with us they adore the one merciful God. There's an excellent little bitty comic book called The Prophet you can get from our ministry. It's like $2 or something like that, by Jack Chick. He goes through the history of the Muslim church and how they started. Very few people realize it was the Catholics that started Islam. They started the whole religion purposely to try to get the Holy Land back for the Catholics. They built up the Islam, they funded Muhammad, they trained him, they sent a Catholic nun out of the monastery. They said, we want you to come out of your convent, go find a young promising Muslim, marry him, and train him to raise up an army of Arabs to go take back the Holy Land for the Mother Church. Quite an interesting story if you want to read about that. It started to work, but then it failed because Islam got so big, they said, well, forget you Catholics, we're doing what we want. And I don't think most Muslims, which is now, what, 10, 20% of the world population, Islam, I don't think most of them know that they really started off as a front for the Catholic Church. So let's cover just a little bit on Muslims. Ask the Muslim, how do you know Muhammad was a prophet? They'll say, well, he had a mole on his back. Holy moly. That's how you know he's a prophet, because he's got a mole on his back. I've got a mole on my back. Got one right here on my cheek. Man, I must be a double prophet. Got 2 moles. Albert, you got any moles? Yeah. Wow, bow down and worship Albert, you know. In one of the Muslim verses says, Muhammad asks the question, when I am dead and buried in the ground and go back to dust, is that all? What will happen to me? Muhammad himself had no clue if he was going to heaven. This verse in the Quran says, when he reached the setting of the sun, he found it set in a pond of murky water. Would that be scientifically accurate to say the sun sets in a pond of murky water? No. I would say the earth turns around and the sun, appears to go around the earth. This is not scientifically accurate. The Quran has loads of scientific errors. It's not a holy book. Allah commands any person who leaves Islam or encourages others to do so should be seized and slain. There are over 100 commands in the Quran to kill people who won't convert. Anybody that won't convert has to be killed. And I see Bush and these guys saying, we're trying to bring democracy in Iraq. The problem with Iraq is their religion. They are being taught every couple days in the synagogue, you've got to kill anybody who won't convert. And there probably are millions of Muslims who don't like this and they don't want to do that, but in order to be a good Muslim, you have to kill anybody else who won't become Muslim. That's the rules, okay? Islam is a religion where God requires you to send your son to die for him. The Bible is where God sent his son to die for you. Exactly the opposite, okay? If you study the history of Jerusalem and the problems with Islam, it's phenomenal. Keep in mind, they both come from the 2 sons of Abraham. Abraham, if he wouldn't have gone down into Egypt and got that Egyptian girl and had that one baby Ishmael, we wouldn't have this whole problem, because all the Arabs come from Ishmael. And the price of gas would not be over $2 a gallon if it hadn't been for Abraham and Hagar, okay? Probably more if the Jews had control of all of it. They like money too. But the Romans and Byzantines, trampled the city of Jerusalem. Chuck Missler's got all kinds of stuff on the Jerusalem and the problems they've had with Islam over the years. It's been trampled down by the Gentiles. The Bible says, I will make Jerusalem a cup of trembling unto all people. And we've got a ton of stuff in our college class CSE 200 series about Islam. One of the books we sell in our bookstore, and I don't get off into every single religion there is, but Islam is a growing, powerful religion, and you need to study it, is this little booklet, Who is this Allah? On page 27, he says, the last hour will not come before the Muslims fight the Jews and the Muslims kill them. That's their plan. The purest joy in Islam is to kill and be killed for Allah. After killing tens of thousands of non-Muslims in Iran, Ayatollah Khomeini said, in Persia, no people have been killed so far, only beasts. Because he thought they're not Muslims, so they're not really people. Allah created Adam, making him 60 cubits tall, according to Baqarah, volume 4. That's 90 foot tall. I mean, is that, you believe that Adam was 90 feet tall? In the third serve, verse 105, it says, in the great and final redemption, only white faces shall be saved, all black faces will be condemned. In other words, you got to be white to go to heaven, to the Muslim heaven. Okay? In the fourth serve, it says, marry as many women as you like, 1, 2, 3, or 4. In Islam, they tell the people you can have 4 wives, but only 4. So what they'll do is they'll get 3 wives, and then the fourth one, they have what they call convenience marriages. You can marry somebody for 15 minutes and then divorce them. So you can have all the concubines you want. Oh, I was only married 15 minutes. There's no law against that. That's their law. It says you can do that. In volume 1, it says, Abu reported, when any of you wakes from sleep, he performs ablution. He must clean his nose 3 times. For the devil spends the night in the interior of the nose. Good Muslims will get up in the morning, suck water into their nose, and blow it back out 3 times. That's got to hurt. Why? Well, because the devil lives in your nose. While you're sleeping, the devil crawls in. That's what they teach. Okay? Baqarah volume 4 says that Satan stays in the upper part of the nose all night. Well, guess what expression we get from that? The boogeyman. Right? The boogerman. Abdu reported, the Apostle Allah said, people should avoid lifting their eyes toward the sky while supplicating in prayer. Otherwise, their eyes would be snatched away. If you're praying and you look up, your eyes will be popped out of your head. He reported non-Muslims eat in 7 intestines while a Muslim eats in 1. Is there a biological difference between non-Muslims and Muslims? Do non-Muslims have 7 intestines? You studied anatomy. Adam, is that in there? They're pretty much the same. If you do an autopsy, I bet you'd find they're the same. Don Boys, my friend up in Chattanooga, Tennessee area, has written a great book called Islam, America's Trojan Horse.